The Pacific Islands are among the parts of the world most vulnerable to climate change. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have been implementing measures to adapt to climate change. Despite these ongoing efforts, the scale and magnitude of the adverse impacts of climate change seem to be increasing. This video explores ways in which the Pacific Islands are making a difference by scaling up their adaptation measures so that they are sustainable in the medium to long term. Key components of this approach are firstly to develop and test standards that identify the concept of scaling up, and secondly to recognize that people are at the center of climate change adaptation. In March 2019, representatives from 10 Pacific Island countries met in Suva, Fiji, to discuss how to scale up climate change adaptation in their islands. The participants at the meeting designed 4 specific criteria required for scaling up in the context of climate change adaptation. Criteria 1. Previous sustainable projects and activities that can be enhanced, expanded, replicated, or can benefit from complementary approaches have been identified and analyzed. Criteria 2. The new activities align with national priorities, policies, plans, and contribute to achieving national development goals. Criteria 3. A people-centered approach that addresses the socio-economic needs of the most vulnerable groups has been applied to the new interventions. Criteria 4. A framework is in place to ensure the maintenance of the newly scaled-up measures, ensuring their long-term sustainability. Maintaining new project activities and infrastructure after project funding ends is always challenging in small islands with limited budgets and with many competing calls for existing budget allocations. However, without confirming maintenance arrangements, project activities will inevitably fail after a few years. These criteria were applied to climate change adaptation activities implemented by the Super Project over the period 2019 to 2022. At the end of the project in 2023, the countries reviewed the criteria and endorsed them as a way to build continuity for national adaptation efforts. The government of Tonga selected coastal protection as their focus sector for the super project. To address Criteria 1, impact assessments were conducted of several coastal protection projects implemented over the previous 10 years along the north coast of Tonga Tapu. These included the construction of semi-permeable groins at Talafo'o and Makaunga, and the reinforcement of an existing revetment and new mangrove planting at Ahau. The results of the impact assessments were used to inform the design of the super project activities, namely the preparation of a coastal protection plan for the north coast of Tonga Tapu, extensive mangrove planting and establishment of a new plant nursery, and upgrading selected stretches of coastal infrastructure. The design of the super project activities supported Tonga's national policies and plans, so fulfilling Criteria 2. These included the Tonga Climate Change Policy, the Tonga Climate Change Fund Act, and the Joint National Action Plan for Climate Change and Disaster Risk Management. The project activities also contribute to the following Sustainable Development Goals: no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, gender equality, climate action, and life below water. Applying a people-centered approach as required under Criteria 3 was very much at the forefront of the super activities in Tonga. Throughout the 4 years of project implementation, extensive consultations were conducted with communities, government agencies, local town offices, youth, and NGOs. In some cases, separate consultations were held with men and women, and in other cases, the audiences were mixed. For example, in 2021, community leaders, who were mainly men, met to confirm the selection of project activities, and in 2022, Talanoa sessions were held with youth participants to discuss how traditional knowledge is used to combat climate change. One important part of a people-centered approach is to keep communities informed throughout the project duration and to listen to their voices. On 15 January 2022, a tsunami caused by the eruption of the submarine volcano Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai sent waves of up to 15 meters towards Tonga. The village of Konokupolu on the northwest of Tonga Tapu suffered extensive damage as the existing rock revetment was overtopped and large boulders were moved inland and seaward. The community made a strong case for rebuilding the rock revetment, and the super project was able to redesign the project activities to accommodate this request. Addressing Criteria 4 to ensure a framework is in place to provide maintenance of the newly scaled-up measures is often the hardest standard to achieve, and this is the case in Tonga's example. An agreement is in place between the Konokupolu Youth Group and community, together with the Ministry of Forestry, to maintain the nursery and care for the newly planted mangroves and coastal plants. This has been linked to Tonga's goal to plant 1 million trees. The Ministry of Infrastructure will maintain the Konokupolu revetment. However, further work is required to confirm budgetary arrangements. The super project has shown that these criteria can assist the Pacific Islands in scaling up their climate change adaptation activities so as to build continuity for national adaptation efforts.